Oh, that was too funny. We're like, oh, we're not there. Hi, how's it going, everybody? We're up in Whistler today, and I literally just came in hot off the hill. I got crazy hair. Yeah, it was a beautiful sunny day up there, and went to play. How you doing, Norma Jean?
A lot better than I was this morning. I can tell you that.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Definitely, definitely. Other than that, I just been just enjoying the day, just to get through what transpired and all that. So
Awesome. Yeah, there's some energies. Anybody else feeling the energies? Let us know in the comments. What's going on for you? How you feeling? Yeah, how's life rocking you? And hello, Cindy. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, we drove up from North Vancouver to Whistler, and this is a friend's place that I'm doing a little painting work at. And we're grateful that we can stay here and hang out and enjoy. It's a beautiful spot. And as we were coming up, we went through Squamish, which is the next major town. Portal, it's got its own dome. And then you come up to Whistler, Portal, it's got its own dome. You want to elaborate on that?
wow, more and more that I just keep coming into understanding who I am. The more and more nature will tell you exactly who
Yeah.
you are in that as well.
Yes.
And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience yesterday that we were able to just explore and to be given the chance and opportunity to understand even more that you know if there's anything that can tell us exactly who we are and what's going on and the truth to our history, it's going to be an environment, and especially if it's in a natural state. So, you know, it's one of those that has just been, just reflecting on everything that stands for, you know, us as human beings, definitely understanding more and more who we are. And, in that understanding that, we can be manipulated. We can be told that things are something that they're not, and that's where a lot of the statement comes from. Things are not what they seem.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in an environment that shows you, and you are connected really good, and you're connected on that level of the natural state of being, then when you're in nature, nature tells you exactly what took place and transpired. And so as we were going through this and we were looking at these boxcars from an earlier train wreck, I knew nothing of the history of that place. I knew nothing about what took place as far as why those box trains were in there. But as I was going through, it became more and more clear to me that anything that takes place in time becomes a portal itself, because it sits there. It's a place in time. It imprints itself there, especially whenever it's in the nature of its environment, especially with like large rocks and trees, stream. When you have those elements together, then you understand how they work in unison. And then when you have that situation where what is sitting there is of the same elemental makeup, just fashioned in a different way, the energies are enormous if you can feel them through your own original vibratory state. And that's what I was picking up on, and it was beautiful. And when we got to the place where we could read some of what they had put on these plaques for people to read, even I amazed myself that what I spoke to had truth. Now, rather what they put on there was truth or not, I don't know. I wasn't there. However, I was in my own way. And nature will tell you the truth of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were yesterday at something called the train wreck, which is in Cheakamus River, and suspension bridges, a swing in the forest, a rope to climb down. It was like being little kids and just playing, and that's what we were doing yesterday. And then today I went up the hill. There was some pretty profound On the river, there's some profound amount of, you can tell they're controlling the water because there's all these huge logs and debris. But the river was so low that I could see all the black moss, which looked like a shag carpet. I'm like, oh, this is where the idea for shag came from. Nature has most things. So, just getting outside and exploring nature. We had came back with all kinds of crystal pieces because there's veins in the granite, and there's all these little crystal bits that were like just lying there asking, take me. So we did. So we collected some of those. So we had something to bring with us. We drank the water from the river. So really communing with nature, right? So in that communion, you realize you have everything you need. She offers everything that we need. And we just in turn need to cultivate and respect that relationship with her. And so in going into nature, that assists in traveling the you inverse, right? The universe within you. And so I'm going to chat about that a little bit today and the portals within us.
It's it's beautiful the way you express that, because it's a uni, because we are one because of the greater aspects of who we are is what encompasses this vessel. And then the verse is the feminine and masculine aspects to us that resides within us because of the two hemispheres of the brain. And when you get them to work in unison with one another, and then all three come together in a unified way, you really are tapping into that unified code, because there is such a thing as a unified code, because it was implemented into this realm just as much as the dual or the contrast. And so when you are working from a unified field, from that unified code, then as I was speaking to earlier, and you're in that natural space and place, and the environment gives you the information of that space and place, and you're tapped in because you're so tapped into who you are, that nature, it does converse with you. You have conversations with nature if you know what you're feeling, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, even down to the water of the river and tasting it, and knowing that there's something so pure in a river that runs over rock that cannot equate to the water that we drink from our sinks. And it was only a couple of times that whenever I took from water from this river that I felt so alive, because that water is alive. And so it's beautiful that I'm able to experience these places and be so enamored and in awe, and seeing the beauty of just the majesticness of what it represents. That's us. That's who we are, because that's how it came to be. And I just, I enjoy every minute, even though, with this one right here, it's always going to be adventure every time. And so, but without the venture, how do you really become acclimated to the environment that you're in? And that's the beauty about, going out with T, that, who she is drives me and pushes me, and leads me to tapping into greater aspects of myself, and what my ability is, and my thought to what this body will do and perform. And knowing that as I continue this journey in having these experiences with T, I just get better and better and better on every level.
Absolutely. Because there's never a dull moment. I'm always trying to create, what else can we do? Where else can we go?
Yep. Yep.
And actually, I was just guided to that spot yesterday, so it was perfect. And then, and on the way back down, we'll stop at a couple other spots as well. So, who else got out in nature? Who else got to play out in nature on this beautiful weather? Yeah. I figured out how to get to BC. I live near Pilot Mountain, huge portal. I'm just going to walk right through. Yeah. Awesome, Shay. And Cindy, we were wondering where you were the other day. So sending you so much love. Yes. Sending you so much love as you go through this, this transition per se. So absolutely. Yeah. And you did get out in nature. Good. Good. Well, nature always nurtures, right? Yeah. Nice. 4x4ing is always fun. I'd be down with that
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the adventure. And I thought I might grab these photos. We'll see if it works out well. Let's talk more about portals and the chakras and the organs
Oh, wow.
and the planets. So
Wow.
we're going to correlate some things together. We've likely said this before, but we're finding that, some things bear repeating so that you really can let it sink in, because even for me, understanding it fully is definitely it's always a work in progress per se.
I was Friday, I came across these two pictures that was showing that you've got the as above, so below, as within, so without. And then you had the macro, which is the 7 domes for the 7 planets of the 7 chakras for the planet. And then you look at the micro, and it's the human being that is the star shape, because we have the 2 arms and the 2 legs, and then we have the head that's the center. And knowing that we have 7 chakras, and that each planet represents those chakras, but it also represents the organs within the body. That as I was looking at it, and it was just coming through to me so clearly that we're so much more than we've ever been taught, than we've ever allowed ourselves to know. But as we continue in this pursuit of understanding more about who we are, the more you become more clear about who you are when you understand this information as it's presented to you. Because believe me, how it presents itself to me is going to be totally different as to how it presents itself to each of you, because of your unique individualism. However, I always masters and bring this message as clear as I can, that we as the human beings, we are the coin, because we are the medium that is what creates that bridge, so to speak, between the worlds, as the above, so below, as within, so without. And it's quite profound when you understand that you being the coin that produces that frequency of the bridging of the elements, of the fullness of how this place in this realm exists, as well as the other simultaneously at the same time. You begin to really understand the value of your currency. You are the currency that keeps this place going. And
Yes.
in that, it's one of those that when you understand currency, it never stops moving, and you are that currency. So you never stop moving unless you so choose to take a different
Form.
whatever it may
And
be, a
even
different
then-
form, or whether it be that you sit, or whatever it may be, whether you're going or not. If you're one of those that you don't do much movement, then you just become something that sits within a vault. You're kind of vaulted. If you really understand, you understand the weight of the vault itself without the coin or the currency being in there. Okay. But if you're a part of that currency that's out here, and it's moving around, and it's shifting, and it's continuing on in its ability to move around, to keep the energies at the levels that they're at, then you begin to understand that the more you move, the more that currency becomes of value. Because then if you're getting out in nature, especially nature, then what you're doing is you're adding value to the currency that you are. And then on top of that, you're also being that bridge that understands how the 2 realms work together in unison by way of being in nature. And I know I haven't touched up on the portal stuff, but go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll get there. And I'm just being asked to explain, look at a tree, for example, as an energy. right? And it starts in the darkness. And it actually has to push through dirt to grow roots before it can come up to the light. And so I just bring this up as an analogy because, in a way, roots are all like portals because they all feed in things, right? Um, and the leaves are all like portals. So, but as it shoots up into the air, it's grounded. It's done the hardest part. It sat in dark, damp earth to break out of the seed, to first grow roots and go down and then come up. And that's a good example of the as above, so below. All the leaves are portals. I would say even like any flowering becomes a portal because it welcomes bees and stuff to it. So that's like a portal. Like it's just fascinating once you realize what's actually going on in these energy exchanges within our body, around our body, with nature. It's fascinating. And so every your mouth is a portal, your nose is portals, your eyes are portals, your ears are portal. Every hole in your body is a portal. I don't have to describe them all. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, you know, it's alchemy. It's an alchemizing process from the macro to the micro, and you know, it's a beautiful process when you come to understand it on every level. So when we understand those processes of alchemization, alchemization is just the transmutation of a substance, and in that substance, in its original form, everything in its original form is light because it takes that spark for something to be created, especially when it comes into the manifest. Okay, because everything is light before it becomes a solid. Period. Because it's energy. Energy is light. The only thing that travels faster than light is your thought. And so as we come to understand the alchemization of the process of the whole unified field, then we begin to understand that our thoughts along with that unified field is very vitally important. First for us as to what we perceive of ourselves. So that's the reason why I always say, regardless of what's taking place within you, always understand, don't judge. Stand in observance of what is taking place with your emotions, with your feelings. Because just like anything else, like an accident, like the train wreck, it's an imprint. There was an emotional imprint upon nature because of that incident. It's no different with what takes place during the process of your growth, where when you have a traumatic event, it imprints, but it imprints upon the body and it puts it in one of the organs or in one of the areas of the body. So it's the same process, but nature continues on. Where us as humans, because we have thought, we have a tendency to go through it a little bit differently. Because in their original state of processing, we were negated the ability to process those emotions or those feelings that we were having in those moments, because we were hindered or we were oppressed or depressed in that expression. So as we go through this and as we continue to see that the energies are picking up, what's happening is portals are opening all over the place. They're opening within you, because what's happening is those portals are opening up and saying, hey, this needs to be recognized. It doesn't mean that the trauma doesn't leave that imprint, because that's an imprint in time. But what it does is it clears it out and you move on, which leaves room for more expressions and experiences to be had, and you having the ability now to see it from a different perspective, because you are a different being now. Whether it's you've grown, whether it's you've come to understand more, or you've done research yourself into understanding what is the human, what is its makeup, why is it this way, why is it that way, what is it with the brain and the heart. So when you come to understand the most important vital aspects of the human, which first is the heart, because it's the very first thing that's formed, then comes the brain, as the other organs are creating and becoming as we grow within the womb of our mother. And so That's why these are called portals, but they're also considered gateways as well. Gateways to see that sometimes our past circumstances helps us recognize that in that moment doesn't speak to the only reason why that past is coming up is because you're relating what's taking place in that moment to a past experience. But that doesn't mean that's what's taking place in that moment. So when you recognize that, okay, this is not taking place in the way that I'm thinking, my brain is just giving me a memory, because when you go to school, they're not teaching you education. They're teaching you about memory. They're teaching you how to memorize what they wanted you to understand. So the brain only knows that process. So when the brain interacts with the mind, it brings forth something that it remembers, but it's only a memory that you've stored because it was what you were taught to do. It doesn't mean that it's truth. Therein lies the understanding that our bodies does what exactly we tell it to do, regardless of where the information is coming from or what we're being taught on what to do with it. So this is where you begin to understand that this is your chance and opportunity to know that you take back your power by stating that just because I have memories doesn't mean there's truth to them. It just means it's a memory. So now you can begin to understand how to alchemize that process through the portal that's become open to the gateway to greater aspects of who you are.
Yeah, and I would say when you work on your chakras and we open up the crown, right? You're opening up a transmission portal for more energies to come in. And so, yeah, beautifully explained. Absolutely. And any dis-ease in the body, right? Ask what it's from. Ask what's going on for you, because I find generally around the 50 mark, there's something about it that suddenly everything doesn't seem quite the way it was, and you might be struggling a bit more. And it's time to look at some stuff that you've trapped in the body that you're not even aware of. And it's not to say, and this is my other big pet peeve at the moment, is this chasing healing. There's no chasing. You just deal with what comes up in the moment, spend more time in nature, and it'll help to transition and transmute it. There's no chasing anything. I got people also messaging and wanting to do different plant medicines. I don't believe in chasing that either. Don't believe in chasing anything, because your answers will always come to you if you sit with nature and you sit with self and the right resonance. That everything will always come through for you, so that you know for fact rather than looking outside of yourself. So hopefully that makes sense. Beautiful. Good job. Everyone was outside, it looks like, over on Rumble. Good job, everybody. And don't forget, yes, please like the video. Feel free to share it for those that it resonates with. What else can we just talk about with the UN verse?
Not everything you've been taught is real.
Right?
So let me give you this a little bit of a scenario. You've been taught that there is cancer. Yet, given what we understand, how many people do you really truly know that pass from cancer? Really recognize the question I just asked. Because from my experience, given that I worked in the medical field, most people that I knew that passed from so-called cancer, it wasn't because of that. It was because of the process that they went through to cure it. Okay. So, and this is not good or bad. This is just observation. So what I'm trying to put forth here is that the only truth we put to something is the belief we put in it. I'm not saying that there isn't cancerous cells within the body. They've always existed. But how or what they do from the moment we're told something, like, say, going to the doctor and the doctor saying, oh, you have cancer. Well, how do you know this? Oh, because of the x-ray. Okay, well, what do you know about light? What do you know about the light spectrum? Where does the x-rays come from? And then on top of that, when you get to understand the light spectrum, x-rays shows the luminous parts of the body. The only thing that's solid within the body is the bones. So Just because you see a mass or a form or something that is of a distortion within that light body does not mean that that's what it is. It could be that it's just energy that needs to move. So how do we know that it's cancer? How does anybody really know that it's cancer? Then on top of that, take into consideration that these doctors were taught this form of practice. Okay. So how do they know? Because they're only being taught stuff to put to memory. How do they really know that it's cancer? Do they really know? So what it is that it's manipulation on top of manipulation on top of manipulation. And it's no one's fault, yet it's all our fault. Because until we come to understand that we must think outside this box, we must think in a critical way where does this seem as though it's a natural state? Now, because the one thing I can tell you is nature isn't sitting there judging what took place in that period in time when that train wreck happened. It's not judging it. It just says, okay, it happened. Then it moves on. And guess what? Those boxcars have just become a part of nature because nature knows shit happens. It happens. But it moves on in its process because it knows it's of just a natural thing that took place in time that involved humans not thinking critically because of the process of the things that have come into that we were born into, where time was of the essence and people were pushed. People make choices because they're put under pressure. Under that pressure, more incidents take place than any other time. That whether that goes for self, whether it goes for family members, whether that goes for you driving a car, you operating some machinery, whatever it may be. When we come to understand that we're put under pressure as humans, that's not how we operate. We were never meant to operate that way. So when you begin to understand, to think about things beyond the level of memory and get to a critical mass of thought where you begin to actually ask the questions that are important instead of focusing on the small things that aren't, then you come to understand what is a natural process. And nature tells you this. Nature will tell you everything about what the natural process is meant to be because it shows us every day. It shows us through the seasons and the changes. So I bring this forth to you because I want to be able to give you the ability and the chance and opportunity to always question everything. Always. No matter how small, question it. Does it seem reasonable? Does it seem as though this is of a natural state? So just because you're told something by someone else doesn't mean they know truth. They just may only know what they know, and that's it. But the thing about it is do they really know? Because if they can't go outside of what they've been taught to question the narratives, to question the propagandas, then how do we know where we are? So that's where it's vitally important to understand what's taking place in our environment, especially for your kids. Teach them to think critically. Teach them to question everything until they come to that sense that taps into those instincts that are of a naturalness of us that will let them know what's truth and what's not truth.
Absolutely. Very well put. And actually, this really leads well into Leanne's asking, my partner has been extremely unwell with very dark entities since the eclipse. Has anyone else experienced that? Please also remember past lives. He's also remembering past lives. Yeah, absolutely. You want to speak to that?
You know, being the being that I am, T knows more about who I am than probably anyone else. So in this place that we're at, we are alchemizing, we're transmuting energies that reside here. And some of these energies are probably energies that may be new to some people because energy is always moving and is always changing. But it can't be destroyed. It can only change in its representation. So last night there was an energy that was here when we arrived. I paid it no mind. Was just only aware of it, but it obviously paid a lot of mind to me. So it was one of those that I went through a process last night, and I really didn't get a whole lot of sleep. I didn't get a whole lot of rest because my spirit was somewhat wrestling with whatever this energy was that was tapping into the ego part of this human vessel. And so it was one of those that I rested a lot more today due to that. I'm not always able to be very present with what's taking place. Sometimes it's one of those you just got to let it play itself out before it can actually become clear to what's taking place.
Mhm.
So as far as, the eclipse is concerned, that was a very, very significant, what would be the word here?
I keep getting one word and it starts with F.
Fuckery?
Yeah.
Oh, well, every day presents something. Every day is a new day. So in that new day, can you pick up on what may be about this new day? Because even though it's been happening since the eclipse, there's something that you put to that eclipse that's triggered something in him that keeps showing up every day. It's something for him to see. It's something for him to recognize. And if you see in past lives, all it is sometimes it's just to see, observe, say, okay, this took place in past. I see you now, release. Because like I said, this doesn't just come to us dealing with who we are in this lifetime. We're also dealing with our lineage in its lifetime and clearing it as well, given all the nefariousness that has taken place. Okay, but it's still a game. All this is a game. There's nothing so real to this. We don't always have to be so serious. I was standing outside last night after we got through eating dinner in this place where there's a marketplace, and it's like all I see are these buildings standing around me and people just moving in and out. And I was like, I'm in a sim.
Yeah.
I'm literally in a sim because not one person noticed that I was standing there. Not one. I almost had somebody run into me. Then a little later, she goes into the store with her daughter to get some stuff, and they're starting to close down. And I'm like, and I'm just such an observer. I really am. And I was already told, pay attention because you're fixing to realize something and recognize something that most people may not be. We've gotten so used to automation that we've lost our sense. Okay. So as I'm standing here, I'm standing out where the lady had already locked.
It's a drugstore. Yes. It's a drugstore.
So the lady's already locked the door to come in. So the only other door that's left is the door that goes out. Well, unbeknownst to the people that's inside, they don't know that she has flipped the switch off. So I'm standing there and these people walk up to this door. Okay. This was a little bit like 3 young ladies that walk up to the door, and I'm standing out there and I'm watching them. They're like looking around. I'm like, push, push, push. And so finally the lady that turned it off was like, you got to push the door. And the girl comes out and she's like, I don't know what to push. I don't know what I was having to push. And I was like, it's a door. So, and they weren't the only ones. It took me 3 people to tell them to push. And it's like, where do we begin to lose our original sense of knowing what to do? And a lot of that has to do with our level of awareness as well. So how do we get back to the sense of knowing? You must be aware of the self and stop getting so used to all this automation, because automation takes us out of our natural state.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leanne, I just want to add to that. And it is very interesting to observe people, and you're like, wow, they're not there at all. It's like they're not there. They're just going along with something. Like lots of sunglasses on at night, and I'm like, how can you even see?
Not that they can to begin with.
Right. And so, Leanne, I just want to add to this, and anyone else that's been struggling since the eclipse, let's review this so it's super clear for you. Past lives, observe, don't absorb. It's something that happened. Great. Thank you for showing me. Release. Get outside barefoot, get hands on a tree, whatever needs to be done. Have a shower, sweep the energy off, but really not to go into that reliving and, oh my God, I did this. Can you believe I did? And locking that in, but just observe it because we've all been evil entities at some point. It just is because it's part of the game. And I know it doesn't feel like a game quite often, but the more we start to understand this, more we're like, you almost have to laugh some things off because we take it way too seriously. So for that, there's the 7 of Wands, right? And even though he's like warring with the wands, they all have new growth. And wands means things can move quickly. And so don't get bogged down in the minutia of what you believe it to be. Observe it and see it from a new perspective. Oh, all of these wands have new growth on them. Oh, and the blue sky represents thought, right? So we're caught up in our thoughts. So instead, let's focus on the green and the nurturing and the nature and move past this, knowing that emotions or energy and motion will pass. They will go by because we all have the strength to deal with this. We all have this strength. We are so resilient. We've been through so much. We're so talented in this way. We have such an ability to move through even the most tragic things, right? So what can you move through and how can we shift through that? Cindy says, I ran into some dark entities on the street, but felt very well protected. No fear, just observing, not absorbing, letting it pass, giving it no power. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you go into a fear or worry, that energy gets picked up on. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Major fairy. Nice.
Major fuckery.
Yes. I'm going with fairy, okay? I'm going with fairy.
But it's one thing I want to touch upon too is that going through the alchemization of the energy that I was transmuting last night, so to speak, up until about noon today. The one thing that I've come to understand is I trust who I am. I trust the process that I know that must take place, that if I fight what is going on, that I only put persistence from resistance to what is taking place. So it was one of those that only did I focus on what could be taking place, but it was one of those because it was going on. There are going to be times that you just got to let it go through the process and trust that you are safe. Trust in your ability to know that no matter what happens or what takes place, you've got this. And I know myself well enough to know that no matter what it was that I was going through and what it was using against me as a process of just recognition, that all it was telling me is okay, this isn't mine. What it was utilizing to manipulate me with, sure as heck, was not the best thing, because I immediately recognized that, yeah, you can't use that because I know differently, because I know who I am. But I knew I had to alchemize it in order to get rid of it, because it's what I do. And so that energy does not reside here any longer, because I seen it for the truth of what it was, just an energy that wanted to take on form, me, but wasn't allowed because I'm stronger than that energy, given that I'm a powerful energy being, more powerful than anything else, because I know who I am. So as you go through these processes, all you must do is speak to, I'm more powerful than anything else that is wanting to embody or wanting to take on form through the process of my ego. So know that you are safe, because you are that powerful being, because you are a creating God yourself. Always know that. Nothing has power over you except for the power you give it. So know that.
Yeah, that goes with everything. I'm not saying put yourself in danger. I'm just saying fear just doesn't live here. can observe things and not attach to it, and follow your energy will always let you know, even up snowboarding today. I caught myself because I had a little tap on my ass and it was my own fault. And I went, oh, thank you for that reminder. Pay attention. And it was just a gentle reminder because we were going very fast most of the time, which tends to be what happens when it's slushy and soft and super playful and fun. And it was just that reminder, stay on your toes. I was on a rented board to boot, so it wasn't even my gear. But very, very fun. So it's that reminder, your energy will tell you something's up. Pay attention. It's always happening for you. It's not happening to you. Yeah. Yeah. And Tango, glad you got that. Awesome. Yes. And you can alchemize pretty much anything. You can alchemize anything. We attract into our reality that which we're projecting. And we have to remember how strong the heart is, right? And so a lot of us have a lot of blocks around our heart. We've been protecting it. It's time to let that go so that you can expand the heart, connect with the mind. So this brain heart coherence is extremely important for this next step of this process that we're in, at least for us. That's kind of where we're at. Do you want to add to that specifically?
Of course, yeah. Given that the heart is the first organ to form for the body, that is our guide. That is our intuition. That is our first womb.
Yeah.
All right. That is the first womb of the body to be created. And it's a vortex of that, which means it's a very powerful womb, especially when you have that connection between the heart and the mind. That's how the heart leads the mind. Okay. Instead of the mind leading everything because of the brain, you see. And that's why they say it's only 6 inches from here to here. So what's between the 6 inches?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so when you come to understand the fullness of this process, the heart must lead the mind for us to be able to speak our truth to what's taking place in our environment to self first before we are able to master being able to speak that truth to others. So when we come to understand it's only 12 inches, the 6th is our throat. That's why it's always good to be toning. That's why it's always good to be able to speak your truth. Know that you don't have to be angry. You don't have to come at it from a place where you must force your truth. Only speak to it and say, this is who I am. If you want to know who I am, please ask, and I will speak and I will say who I am, for only I know who I am. Because only you do. Keep the toning. Hum. Ensure you get plenty of water, because that is what helps keep the throat lubed, so to speak. Because the deeper breathing as well, your prana, is very vitally important. Because as you continue to tone, you must reach deep down into the belly of that to bring forth the tone that truly is you. For the very first word you speak is the cry you make once you have exited your mother's womb. That is your energy. That is your unique signature that imprints upon this world. So always know, no matter how much you get hurt by the actions of others, for we did not know any different, it should never be something that prevents you from allowing yourself to know your heart, to allow it to become, to allow to be shared through self. It doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be taken advantage of, because it's okay. The heart's going to let someone know, hey, I'm showing you the love that I am. Showing you the love that I am.
That's a new one. I didn't even know.
Right, I didn't either. I'm showing you the love that I am. But I'm not a love to be taken advantage of either.
No.
For I am that truth of that love. For I am the love. So always know, speak your truth. Know that it doesn't have to come from a place that has to be forced, because all truths bear no emotion, because they are, because you are.
Yeah. And Tango says toning works well in meditation. It does. The vowels work really well. The om works very well, especially if you can build it up and really fill your belly. And practice getting it longer, stronger. It's a really good way of toning and sets things up beautifully for working on self. And never worry about being late. It is all good. You're never late. You always just get to watch the rewind.
Right on time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we gave you lots to think about today. Energetically, portals, the U inverse, like spending time with self and getting to know self, and how do you, it's probably the most important thing since the eclipse, is this extra pull towards, okay, what's coming up? What do I need to pay attention to? Visions, memories, it's all coming up just to be observed and let go of, so that we can move on with this process of moving more into our electrical beings, our light bodies per se, our crystalline beings. You know, add to that?
It's like I was expressing, the heart's what matters.
Yeah.
The heart is what matters, because it's always getting back to the heart of self. Like I said, it's the very first organ that's created. And I won't say that this hasn't been a long journey for myself in understanding that, given, that when I started this journey at 33, it was to get back to the heart of who I am, literally. And it's been a beautiful and chaotic and very transformative, contrasting experience. The more that I come to know more of myself, I can't express the feeling that you will have, the love that you will have for self, to know that you did the best with where you were at and what you were giving, what you knew, which given at the time for myself wasn't much. I had memories. But for me to have come to be here in front of you right now, I'm the one that had to start educating myself. I'm the one that had to start gaining the information that tapped into a knowledge base of the wisdom that resides within me. So thank you, ancestors. Thank you for the ones that were before me, that left that impression upon the DNA that resides with the lineage, that to a level and degree, I've always had the ability to stay connected to my instincts through whatever process, no matter what it was that I went through. That's what got me through a lot of this. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every experience I've ever had, because if I hadn't had those experiences, regardless of what my brain wanted to relate it to, or to stamp it with something of no truth, without those untruths, I wouldn't know my truth. So keep going, keep pushing, because until you do it for you, you will not be able to show your children, and they are the most important, for they are the generation after us. They are the generations that I look at and I say, what can I do to always come forth and provide to them their ability to always know, to allow their instincts to be what they go with first? Because when I look at what's taking place and transpiring right now, and I look at the world and I see the God that was before and I see the God that's trying to take over now, everybody is in that place and space that AI is the devil. It will be what it will be, but it'll be what thought you put to it. but understand that it's just another age. It's just another experience and time that's coming forth for us to realize and recognize that can be utilized in one of two fashions. It's going to be utilized for the usage of the ones that are selfish, or it's going to be utilized for the ones that are going to take it and expand upon it and to help others to understand how to utilize it and know the difference between the truth and falsity that may reside or lie within that system itself. Discernment.
Which then relies on the person who's actually physically using it, right? And accessing it, how they're accessing it. What is their wish for that? Because at the end of the day, I don't think AI is going anywhere, but can be used for good and it can be used for negative, just like everything else.
Mhm.
And so it's important that, we teach that discernment. And at first we have to embody it ourselves. We have to be grateful, and all those ancestors in the DNA that you're coming up with this information, they're there to assist. They're super excited. They're jumping up and down. Let's go. Let's go. We've been waiting forever for this. Yeah. So take solace in that. Take joy in that. And sorry, guys, this light's getting really strong here.
Right here.
You can't even stop it.
No. So
You see that?
just know that until you know the truth, you can express the truth. But always know that the truth that you come into, that you'll know innately, because it's instinctual, it's natural. The body will tell you, because when there's truth, there's no emotion involved, because it is. But in order for you to express this and to master showing this or finding ways to pass this knowledge on to the next generation, is to know for self first, to see through that there is a way for us to always guide the ones after us in ways that we teach them about discernment, so they may know the difference between what is truth and what's false, because false information is still out there. It will always remain. But can we, as the beings we are ourselves, trust ourselves so much to know that the information that comes to us, if it has no emotion to it, that means there's truth, because it always was, always is, always will be. So that's vitally important information for me to pass on to you. Understand the truth for self so that you may be able to teach your children, because it's vitally important. Because we're coming to a space and place with the AI, we may not know the difference unless we feel it. Yeah. And then that feeling is the truth.
And for all these children, like, holding that space, don't rush them. Let them explore life. It's magical when you can watch them. I was watching kids up skiing and I was like, oh yeah, they've all their little tutus on and they're all dressed up and unicorn horns. And I was just like, yeah, cheering them on. They're having a blast. They're having so much fun, much fun. And go play. Get outside and play. Play like a child. Have childlike wonderment. Because it is in that joy that you are manifesting for your highest good. It is in that joy that your heart and brain will become coherent. Mm-hmm. It's not something you have to work on, something you have to be. Be creative, be joy, like figure out what really makes you sing and resonates for you. It could be just sitting under a tree. It could be playing in the dirt with your hands and gardening. It could be painting. It could be sculpting. It could be anything. Going to the zoo. Well, not necessarily the zoo, but you know what I mean. Getting out in nature and observing the animals. Yeah. Love those unicorns. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely allow your kids to express.
And express yourself like a kid.
Yeah. And in that expression, find out what they love. And tell them to never lose that love, because that's their deepest and most expressiveness of the love they are. Then tell them, listen, if you take this and you harness this and you allow it to become, because it's a part of who you are, you'll never work a day in your life. And there's truth to that. Because then they take the love of what that brings forth more of that expression of them, and they utilize it as a trade. And it's a unique trade of themselves that they will leave that impression behind by whatever it is they create.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on that note, we're going to leave you guys. We love you so much. Enjoy. You'll see David on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, we're off. Thursday, we actually leave for Vedette Lake. So if anybody's interested in Vedette Lake, magical weekend next weekend. We're super excited. Yeah, reach out. And then we're planning something for Vancouver Island. I just picked the dates, so we'll get that poster done up this week and put out there. And we're going to introduce that one as more of a camping. So that's going to be a really beautiful price point per se. And we're going to let everyone bring their own food. So whoever, wants to join can join. So doing this one a little differently. So we're sending you all lots of love. Have a beautiful evening. Cindy, sending you so much love. Hi, Arlene. Yes, you're welcome, love. Okay.